We have another sit-down interview done by Kamala Harris, this time doing so completely by herself, which alone combats two MAGA narratives that they try to push that, oh, well, she did so poorly in her first interview that she's going to refuse to do another. But remember, Trump did so good in his debate, and that's why he's refusing to do another. Definitely logically consistent. But also the other one that she's scared to do one alone, and that's why she had Tim Walz with her. And I think that this interview actually went pretty well, like especially the 2 points that I want to drill in on and cover. So in contrast to the Trump rally we covered this morning, let's see what this presidential candidate is talking about.
When it comes to gun ownership, where do you draw the line in America on gun ownership and gun use?
Well, like you said, Brian, I am a gun owner, and Tim Walz, my running mate, is also a gun owner. We're not taking anybody's guns away. I support the Second Amendment, and I support reasonable gun safety laws. Part of my approach to this is I was a career prosecutor for most of my career. I have personally prosecuted homicide cases. I have personally looked at autopsies. I have personally seen what assault weapons do to the human body. And so I feel very strongly that it is consistent with the Second Amendment and your right to own a gun to also say we need an assault weapons ban. They're literally tools of war. They were literally designed to kill a lot of human beings quickly.
I think this is the perfect response to the gun control question, especially again asserting that she is a gun owner. She's not trying to take your guns like they're taking our jobs and eating our pets and all of that nonsense that just gets spewed. And I think a lot of the talk around gun control comes down to what understanding of the Constitution you have, and also just some common sense context that anybody should be able to add. The Constitution was made when the federal government was being created to ensure that the states would still remain to have some rights and control, that they wouldn't be at the federal government's complete mercy. So when we talk about these amendments, it's important that context, because you would know then that it's rights given to the states to administer to its people. It's not individual rights, which is why the Second Amendment is worded in a way that mentions a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. And even in the only words that the gun nuts want you to focus on at the very end, as if that part that clearly mentions it's talking about the state doesn't exist in the keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It doesn't say all arms. So it's not just like flat every weapon people can own. Like, let's let the people have nukes. And the context that should be rather common sense to apply to this is that the scope of weaponry back when this was created was absolutely nothing compared to what it is now. Like, they had the guns you fired once and had to like shove the thing down to reload. And now we have like fully automatic assault weapons. And if you zoom out from this also, there's tons of judicial precedents through the Supreme Court that backs this perspective up. U.S. versus Cruikshank states that the Second Amendment doesn't prevent states from regulating firearms. U.S. versus Miller affirms it's not an individual right to own guns, but a protection of the state's rights to administer this right to its people. And as recent as 2024 with U.S. versus Rahimi, which shows that restrictions are constitutional, as they ruled prohibiting those with domestic violence restriction orders from possessing a gun, is consistent with the Second Amendment. So those who pretend that the Second Amendment protects their individual right to own any gun without any restriction have a fundamental misunderstanding of the Constitution and the judicial precedents that also allows these federal restrictions. And I think it's clear with the mass shootings, the problems that these assault weapons have caused, the fact that they're weapons of war literally made to kill the most amount of people in the least amount of time, that they should be banned.
Most Americans want a leader who brings us together as Americans, and not someone who professes to be a leader who is trying to have us point our fingers at each other. I think people are exhausted with that approach, to be honest with you. I think people want a leader who has common sense and tries to find common ground. I'm supported by over 200 Republicans who worked for both Presidents Bush, John McCain, and Mitt Romney. I'm supported by the former Vice President Dick Cheney, former Congress member Liz Cheney. And I think people are more willing now, in light of the hate and division that we see coming out of Donald Trump, to say, hey, let's put country first
And what she said is exactly what plenty of people want, which is why so many disavowed Republicans, I think it's over 200, are flocking to Harris. Independents who typically lean right and don't vote Democrat are looking at her in this election. Now, to be fair, the Dick Cheney endorsement is a gross one, but if it serves its purpose, then I mean, so be it. It's not like she is endorsing his ideas, it's him endorsing her, but people are tired of Trump, what he represents, how he puts self before country, how he puts party before country, but to be clear, not the Republican Party, just MAGA individually in this regard, as he's only selfishly for things that will help him. It's a strictly transactional basis, and if these things don't align with what's good for the country, then it's a big middle finger to the country. And I think that plenty of people are tired of that, tired of the divisiveness, the hate, the racism, the misogyny that you have to accept or have to overlook to accept Donald Trump because it comes right with him. It's a package deal. And instead, these people want a leader who wants to bring us together, who wants to look towards the future, who wants to build everyone up, not push others down, and speaks on the hope and possibility and opportunity that everyone in America deserves.